Medical Center and the University of Arizona for sponsoring this location, the David and Terry Paulin for sponsoring this upcoming discussion. The panel will end in about an hour. We're going to include about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A, so if you've got some questions, tee those up for us. Make sure and stop by the sales and signing area right adjacent to us, just to the right, where Kevin will be signing books. And if you, hopefully if you want to continue to support the Tucson Festival books and make things like this continue to happen every year, please do consider becoming a friend of the festival or a sponsor. You can go to TucsonFestivalBooks.org to do that. Also, please make sure that you silence your cell phones. No one wants to hear your goofy ringtone, right? Silent is better. So right now, what I want to do is bring out Kevin Nealon. I just want to give you a quick rundown, not that he needs any introduction, but Kevin Nealon is an American comedian and an actor. Of course, he was a cast member on Saturday Night Live from 86 to 95, creating some of the fabulous roles that we'll never forget. I also did a lot of work with the Happy Madison films. He played Doug Wilson on Weeds, Showtime. He's done tons of stand-up, his True Love, and of course, he's here because of this amazing book, which if you haven't seen it, hopefully you'll go buy it and have him sign it for you. I Exaggerate, My Brushes with Fame, which is really about his art career, which is really fabulous. Great stories, great caricatures of people he knows and aspires to know. So he's just a really fun guy, and I'm really excited to be here today to have this conversation. So come on out, Kevin.
Is it Herb or Herb?
Well, it's Herb.
Okay.
Or if I'm in trouble, it's Herbert.
Oh. Do you want me to stand behind a podium or sit here?
No, sit here with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too close, though.
Yeah.
Oh, these chairs are so comfortable. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Did you get some books? You saved a little money for my book? I'm sorry, what was the question? I forgot.
So, I want to start. You know, we have so much to talk about. I want to start out though. This, you know, most people, I would imagine, most people didn't know that you did art and were an artist. So I have to, and not that I want you to spoil what's in the book, but maybe talk a little bit about how that has always been a part of who you are, art.
Yeah, people didn't know that I painted, and a lot of times I heard, I didn't know you were that talented. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, growing up, I loved to doodle. I loved to sketch people, but it wasn't really totally committed to it. I would do a quick sketch with a pen or a pencil in the margin of my school book or a notepad, and I loved doing it. People seemed to appreciate it. Even a silly little thing on a napkin, really quick. Like there would be a comedian on stage, and I would sketch him, and it would be horrible. And they'd say, "Oh, this is great. Can you sign it?" So the bar was really low for me to do this. And then I think one of the biggest inspiring things was in my bedroom. I had 2 framed pictures of my parents that were caricatures done by this Parisian caricature artist, because we used to live in Europe and we would go to Paris once in a while. And this guy was really good. He did it in pastels, and I would lay in bed and I would just look at those paintings every night, and subconsciously I was studying the way the guy exaggerated them. So that's why everything I do now looks like my mother and father.
But it's really funny you say that, because my wife and I were in Europe many years ago, and we stopped to have somebody make portraits of us, and we were in Italy, and we got the portraits back, and we couldn't stop laughing because they made us look Italian. So, right, there's a certain bias. So there's a bias, right? I mean, so is your bias in this work, is it, I mean, because of the title, of course, I Exaggerate, are you sort of, is that one of the things you just key into, is just a feature? Like, I wonder how you would draw me.
You wouldn't want that. I have some friends that say, "Hey, why wasn't I in the book?" And I say, "Because you're my friend, and I want to keep you my friend." You know. So I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm so stoned right now. That's true.
What is
Herb
your,
is though. Herb is totally. Eating Walker's that guy.
is there an artistic bias you bring to your portraits?
Oh, like picking one thing to exaggerate. You know what's really crazy is when I started doing this, to the extent I'm doing it now, where I color them in, and I cannot walk around without looking at people and finding their, how I would exaggerate their face. And it's like being in a fun house every day. Everybody's face, and I see a different trait to it. Like yours, I would have a field day.
Okay. Moving on.
But I take a feature that kind of is outstanding, and I work on that. And if it's somebody I know that's kind of sensitive, I'll scale that back a little bit, and we remain friends.
So, one of the things I love about some of the portraits you've got in the book is the process pieces. And I like that seeing things in stages and in phases, and I think that was really well done in the book. Was that something that you worked with the editor on, or was that all your decision?
No, that was just part of my process. He's referring to an evolution I do, like on my Instagram, at Kevin Nealon, and Kevin Nealon Art as well, artwork, that's it. I will post a painting that I did, and then I will have another Instagram that shows you the evolution of getting to the end point of that character. And sometimes there's about 50 of those different, because it takes me a long time. People always ask me, how long does it take you to do one of these? Because I'm kind of new at it. I started during the pandemic, and it takes me a long time. Some of them take, like a month working 6 hours a day. So yeah, so I'm not one of those people that gets it right the first time. I have to keep doing different, like when I did myself, it took, I still haven't gotten it right. I'm still doing it in my hotel room here because my college wants to hang it on the wall. With the president, I think that's his way of getting a free caricature. He goes, come on, we'll hang it on the wall in the theater, and we'll put mine right next to you. How about that? Huh? So yeah, it takes a long time, but people do like that evolution thing, and I play music with it, and it's just kind of closes out. And you know what else I like doing is sketching people on airplanes, and there's a few of those in there, and people really seem to like that. It's at the beginning of the book. I'll be going someplace, and it gives me something to do. I'll look over, and they'll be sleeping usually, and I will sketch their picture, and I'll put the seat number down and where the plane is going, and what row they're in, and what they had for lunch.
And if they were drooling while they were sleeping.
Drooling, yeah. And if they were in a fight with their spouse, I write that down.
So, do you work on one exclusively at a time, or do you have a couple things going?
I work on one, because I can't multitask in this field. Other things I can multitask, but this one, I can't even listen to a book on tape. I've been listening to Dune, and it's kind of a complicated story with all the different names. And I find myself, after 3 minutes, drawing and trying to listen, I don't know what I heard. I always have to rewind it. So I will have evolutions of the book Dune, different pages also, next to the evolution of the character. I think it's going well so far, Herb. Really good. I think they're poised and they're ready. They are ready for something to happen.
Greatness?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's good. Opportunities for greatness, is my lawyer used to say. So you sort of touched on it, but there are, in your book, there are friends and there are people who you just found interesting to draw. Is one easier or harder to do friends or potential friends?
Well, some people say you really captured that person, and I like that, but the truth is I'm going off of a reference picture, and I don't sit down with these people because they don't have a month to spare like that. And so I think people that I don't know, it's a little bit easier because their characteristic traits are new to me. Like if we were hanging out for a long time in our lives and I started to do you, I wouldn't know what, I'm used to looking at you, so all of your flaws are hidden.
Laid bare.
But they're not really flaws, it's just the characteristic traits, that's all.
All right, no, that's fair. So have you met somebody after you drew them that you didn't know that you're like, you know, a little sheepish about?
Yeah. I did a book tour last fall or something, but I was doing the talk show circuit, like Jimmy Fallon and Kimmel and all those guys, and I brought a few paintings with me, and out of courtesy, I asked some of them for approval to use the paintings. And I didn't have to do that, but I did it as a courtesy, and I could see Martin was fine with it, Jim Carrey was fine with it, and then there was one painting, I think it's on page 67. I might have ripped that out, I'm not sure.
Let's just look and see.
Or maybe 97. Or maybe it's not in there.
All right, let's see. 97 is.
Here you go, I'll find it.
Well, here, oh yeah, it's your book.
Don't leave anything to Herb, you know, he just can't get the job done. I can't either. Okay, talk to them while I'm doing this.
Talk amongst yourself. Favorite Kevin Nealon sketches. We're coming up on that one.
By the way, this was a good friend of mine, and he's from Tucson, Gary Shanley.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good enough reason to get the book alone here in Tucson.
And we were going to talk about Gary. He was on my list. Because yes, Gary was a huge loss for everybody. Gary was just a giant in the industry, and one of the proud sons of Tucson, actually. We like to claim him.
Yeah, and I have a great story about him next to his painting.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So this guy, I'll let you hold it up. First I'll tell you, this guy, I sent it to his agent. His agent hated it. Christopher Walken. I don't know why he hated it. His agent hated it. He sent it to Christopher Walken and his wife. They hated it so hard. He said, under no circumstances can you use this painting to promote your book. But it's in every one of those books. At first I thought, well, maybe I should, rip those pages out. But, what am I going to sit down and rip it out of 50 books?
So the answer is yes, you have. But you didn't mean it, though. You just sent it to his team.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't hear back from some people. Like I said, Howard Stern wanted to get approval and never heard back from him. So that's always not good news. Sometimes they say no news is good news. That was not good news. Yeah. But most people like it. I showed Jim Carrey his. He goes, "That's kind of bleak." That's kinda bleak. And then I sent one to Matt LeBlanc from Friends. Joey, how you doing? I sent it to him, and he texted me back. He goes, "I'm honored, I think." That's a real Joey line right there.
Well, but I mean, sure to be included, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's sort of cool. Has anybody asked for you to give them like a print of it or anything, or?
Oh yeah. I have a lot of people. I had a gallery showing, and a lot of friends came and they bought a lot of paintings, and I was really surprised. But yeah, they liked it. There's comics that if they don't want themselves, they want other comics to hang on the wall.
Oh, to throw things at.
Darts, yeah.
So real quickly, walk us through the process. So I think you said this is a digital media that you're working in, right? You're working on an iPad or Wacom?
It's multimedia.
Okay.
Yeah, I start with a sketch, paper and pencil, and then I copy it onto a Wacom digital tablet. I work with that, and then I paint it. I print it out and paint it.
So you're painting in like acrylic, oil?
Acrylic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's the way I've learned how to do it, because I started following these other artists on Instagram, and they're so good. Don't look at their stuff. Listen, they are so good, Herb, and I learned from them, and I learned how they do it, and I watched them, I became friends with some of them. And one guy in particular, his name is Jason Seiler. He lives in Chicago. He does cover Man magazines, he does cover Time magazine. He's like probably the foremost artist in the country, illustrator. And we would do back and forth text messages, you know, and I'd be asking him, hey, I can't get this, do you think those eyes are too big? And he goes, well, you know, they look all right. And then he wanted to get into stand-up comedy, so he was asking me a lot of questions about stand-up. I didn't realize that would be part of the deal. I don't have the time to talk to him about stand-up. But anyway, he's doing well now with the stand-up.
Well, I was going to say, you could have steered him the wrong way. You know, people love props, right? I mean, you know, you could have told them all.
That's true, that's true. But yeah, I did learn a lot from those people. And that's the great thing about social media. No matter what you want to do, you know, you go on social media, you see these 5-year-olds shredding the guitar, you know, drumming or dancing. They didn't have that when we were kids. We'd be much better at what we were doing now if we had that.
Or we would have been so discouraged by what we'd seen, we just never would have done it.
I mean, it is getting, I'm not even impressed by some of these kids anymore, because they're 5, and I've seen it. I'm gonna see right now. I wanna see a baby coming out playing a violin. That's pretty good. I'd be more impressed with the mother than the baby.
Little violin.
Little violin, yeah. No bow, no bow.
So, last question on that. How big are these? How big do you work? I'm just curious about how.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the book. Well, look at it, it's right there. They're different sizes. You know, whatever, I mean, some of them are, you know, like that, right, like that.
Wow.
And some of them are like that. And some of them are like this, like that. And there's one like this. I'm not a good judge when it comes to inches or centimeters. I don't even know how many inches are in a centimeter. Or is it the other way around? What's the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit?
This is an art panel.
Oh,
Comedy
all
art.
right.
This is not science. There's a whole Science City thing going on.
But you know what they say, behind every art piece, there's science. I saw it on YouTube. Some 5-year-old told me that.
So let's pivot and
Okay.
let's talk about stand-up, because
Okay.
stand-up is it you're still your first love? I mean, that's something.
Yeah, it's all I ever wanted to do. And be careful what you wish for, because I'm doing it now a lot, and I've been doing it for the last 43 years. And I include a lot of that in the book. You know, I talk about the first time I did The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It's back in the 1900s. So yeah, it kind of is a parallel between the two, because I was able to write some funny stories in there and to know these different people from the comedy clubs that I, you know, painted. And it was kind of like a full circle for me. I never thought that I would be doing that. I just wanted to be a stand-up. And then the acting kind of came secondary, like SNL and Weeds and a lot of these Sandler films and commercials. And it's funny how things take you places sometimes. You don't know. You know, you think you're going one direction, and then all of a sudden, you got an art book in Tucson, Arizona. Right. I thought I was going to do stand-up comedy.
So stand-up is, I mean, it seems to me, stand-up is very different, right, today, because of social media, because of, I mean, you know, things happen so quickly, like, not to bring up something bad, but I mean, the Michael Richards thing, and I mean, that was a whole big scandal because of, you know, some comments he made during his routine, and then, or, you know.
What did he say? I can't remember.
You know, it just seems like it's more of a real-time situation than like, oh, this amazing comic that I saw down at the Laugh Factory, right? It wasn't like you could go online and see that person's work.
Right.
It's there. Is that harder as a comedian to sort of be in that world, or?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because when I started doing stand-up, I knew every stand-up comedian because it was such a novelty act. A lot of people had never been to a comedy club or seen it on TV even. And so I was right in the hub of it, and I would see all these comics that I used to see on TV in Connecticut, where I grew up. And I couldn't believe it. Like, so-and-so walked in, and there's Jay Leno, and there's Andy Kaufman. What, David Letterman? You know. And so I'd see all those guys, and I knew them. I knew every one of those. Robin Williams, I knew their act. I knew when they would swallow before a joke or whatever. And I go off to do SNL. I never stopped doing stand-up, no matter what show I was on. On the off weeks, I would do it. Or, you know, in the night when I wasn't needed, and then slowly over you know, the last 30 years or whatever, comedy clubs became much more prevalent, and stand-up comedy became much more accessible, and people became familiar with it, and people were saying, you should do that, you're really funny. And look at all the money that guy's making money. Yeah, not Kevin, but the other guys are making a lot of money. So you see, there's tons of comics now, and when I started off, it was just basically Jewish, Italian, Black, Irish comics. You know, that's all that we're doing. But now, you go back to the club, and it's every nationality you can think of. And I don't know the names of most of them, so I'm really angry.
So you still do you're still doing, obviously you're still doing stand-up because you're on tour all the time.
Yeah.
Do you like not having to rely just on stand-up? I mean, do you like having the acting a part of what you do?
Yeah, my initial intention was just to do stand-up, but now I love that I have kind of a mixed bag of doing different things. You know, like I get to act, I get to write, I get to do live TV and single camera like Weeds. I get to smoke a lot of pot on a show. Actually, that was not real pot. If you've ever seen the show Weeds, it's about a soccer mom who sells weed, and it was illegal at that time, again, back in the 1900s. No, that was in the 2000s, early 2000s. And I never anticipated that, just like I never thought I'd have a book. But things just come along, and you stay open to it, and you have fun with it.
Well, and it seems like it would be sort of nice and not as stressful and sort of fun for your brain to sort of bounce back and forth between things. Because
Yeah.
imagine the stress of being a stand-up and always trying to gig, and I have some friends who have never really sort of made it to that top level, but it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of road miles, it's tough on families, it's, you know, and so
Yeah.
that must be nice to have that sort of diversity of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. Like I do stand up now just until something else comes along. But I still like it. I don't like the traveling that much. But you know, I get to sketch people sitting next to me in the airplane. But yeah, I mean, I've done this for a long time. One time I was in the Denver airport and I saw Bob Newhart in the lounge because, you know, first class. You know who I saw on a plane once? John Hamm. And I was going to say hi to him, but then I thought, I don't want to go back and coach. That's not true. I went back there and said hi to him. What was the question?
We can move on. I want to talk about writing for a second because you were a writer actually for what's going on right now, the Academy Awards one year. Was that when Ellen was the host, I think?
It was with Ellen, yeah. Ellen and I go way back. Before I knew she was gay, that's how far back we go. And she and I used to do stand-up comedy at the same time. We would drive to different gigs sometimes that were hours away. So we have nothing left to talk about when I see her. But yeah, I wrote for the Oscars that one year, and I learned a lot from doing that. They come and tell you to come and write with them like 2 months before. And I start writing these great jokes, and they love them. A month later, those jokes seem kind of stale to them, and they get newer jokes in. So, and they never do yours. So I learned, if this ever happens again, I'm not going to give the good jokes until like 2 days before. I might even give it to her as she's standing behind the curtain.
As long as they get on the card, yeah. So, but I mean, so each host brings in their own folks, right? So Kimmel's bringing in his team,
Yeah.
probably some of his writers from his show, and then also some freelance folks.
Yeah, I think so. Steve Martin has hosted it a few times, and I said to him, "Hey, Steve, you know, I would be happy to write for you anytime you want. If you know, I would have written for you on that last one." He goes, "Oh, I wish I knew that." And then the next one comes along, he doesn't ask me again. I said, "Steve, you know, I was available again." And this one goes, "I wish I knew that, and I wish I, what's your name again?"
So let's pivot and talk about television, and we have to start with Saturday Night Live just because we have to. You're probably really sick of talking about Saturday Night Live.
No, it's a big part of my life. I don't mind it. It's like, I do this hiking show, and I'll hike with some of these, and I interview these celebrities, and I'd be hiking with, say, Lisa Kudrow or Courtney Cox, and I gotta ask them about Friends, you know, and they don't seem to matter. They don't seem to mind, and But then I feel guilty afterwards for just asking about friends. What was so-and-so like? What was that like? You know, what was the episode with the coffee shop? What was that all about? But yeah, so yeah, SNL was fine. That was a big part of my life, 9 years.
Yeah, and I mean, it was certainly, I mean, the show, it's amazing, it's coming up on 50 years next year, and it's just, and I mean, I remember being, you know, a preteen watching the first show in 1975, and I mean, there's these seminal periods of Saturday Night Live when just certain people were there, and you just sort of look at it and you're like, holy smokes. You know?
Not only smokes, but something else.
Holy snorts. But I mean, like, there's a famous one that you did where you're on a date and you're at an Italian restaurant with Kirstie Alley, and everybody in that scene, I mean, even Farley is the bartender, he has one line, but he's in the scene. I mean, like,
Right.
everybody is in that scene.
You talking about SNL?
Yeah.
Not again. Yeah, that was one of my favorite sketches to be in. I didn't write that. I think Adam Sandler wrote that with, I don't know, Rob Schneider or somebody. It doesn't matter. And if I didn't write it, it doesn't matter. But yeah, this was called, I think it was called Bellissimo.
Yes.
And it was this Italian restaurant. And I come in with Kirstie Alley. We're on a date. Or maybe she's my wife. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It's your anniversary.
It's my anniversary, okay. Yeah, I forget about those things after a while. But, so I watched it a couple months ago, and I found myself laughing hard at it again, because I hadn't seen it for a while. And so we come into the restaurant, and you know the Italian people, they like to hug you and kiss you, even though they don't know who you are. And it started off that way. And then they get a little too handsy with my wife. And I'll say, honey, what's going on here? What, you know what? No, honey, it's what they do. They're Italians. That's what they do. They're Italians. That's just the culture. And I'm uncomfortable with it. And, all right. But then it escalates more. They're, you know, grabbing her, and one of the waiters comes out with just a Speedo on. They're on the table eventually.
It's amazing. You probably couldn't do that today, that skit, because somebody would, you know, be upset at you about that.
Oh, people are always upset, I think, no matter what you do or whenever you do it.
There is that. That's true.
I got a death threat letter once when I was doing a Weekend Update. This is before the internet. This is back in the 1800s. So this guy sends me a letter. He was from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I remember that. And it said, and it was just a handwritten one. He goes, how you became so unfunny, I don't know. But I'm gonna put a bullet in your big fat Mick head. And I was for like a week, I was so paranoid. I was asking everybody, do you think I have a big fat Mick head? I think this guy said that to me. And then I did myself. Oh, man. But yeah, you're right, you can't get away with a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to go back and look at some of the skits
Yeah.
and see some of that stuff.
Some people can get away with stuff, and other people, the same material, couldn't get away with it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think I could get away with a lot of stuff, although I wouldn't do it, because they think I'm a nice guy, you know?
Well, like, I think, like, Mr. Subliminal, another one of your great characters, right? I mean, that one, and it's funny that the one that pops up when you do a search for that is one where you're talking about Trump getting divorced, which is sort of funny. The timing is interesting. But I mean, that's another one that, did you write Mr. Subliminal, or was that?
Mr. Subliminal was a character I brought to the show.
Okay.
And I used to be part of my stand-up act. And that actually came from a friend of mine, Ed Peck. He was a character actor, and he did a Lowenbrow commercial. He had a really deep voice. He was Lowenbrow. I can't even get it that deep, and we would go to Cantor's Delicatessen in Hollywood, a big popular deli, and he was there. Watch what I'm going to do with a waitress. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And he would slip words in, you know, like. Let's see, I think I'll have the hamburger. How much is the hamburger, your treat? Why don't we get that? You know? Hey, I'll tell you what else, Mary, are there any specials today, Hooker? I wonder if maybe I can get this thing. So I went to school for marketing, so I knew about subliminal advertising, so I thought it'd be great to combine that with actually trying to get something, instead of just tagging people with something ridiculous, you know, something, you know, that's insulting. So yeah, so I would go into the office and I would, have my boss say, "Hey, I wonder if you can give me tomorrow off. That's tickets because I have some plans. Hey, you can have tomorrow off. Why don't I give you some med tickets? Here, take a med ticket." So that would work well for me. That was the first sketch I ever did on that show. And it's difficult because it's like two conversations at once. You're inserting words into your conversation that have nothing to do with your conversation. And I'm waiting to go on, and our way up commercial, first time I've ever done this, 30 Rock, Saturday Night Live, and the creator of the show, Lauren Michaels, comes over to me, 5 seconds to go before the commercial comes back, puts his hand on my shoulder, he said, "Are you sure this is what you want?" Some people that would have made them collapse, but I thought it was funny, and it turns out it wasn't what I wanted.
Well, honestly, you do look a little nervous in that piece. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. But if you have not watched it, go find it on YouTube. It's amazing.
Yeah, go find some stuff I'm nervous in.
100% so. All right, now we have to talk about Hans and Franz just because. I'm sorry. Maybe sick of Hans and Franz, but
No, Hans and Franz, that was a big part of my life, Hans and Franz.
I mean, it's and you know what I think is fascinating too. And I don't know if you're familiar with Chop and Steal. Do you know about the guys that do Chop and Steal? There's the guys that do the found footage festival. There are these guys that find videotapes, they find really great stuff, and they curate it. One of them used to be a writer for Conan, one of them used to be somewhere else. Anyway, they made a whole feature film about these guys called Chop and Steal, who pretended to be strongmen and would talk their way onto morning TV shows because they would do no background checks. They got sued by one of these TV stations for being like fake, and then went to a state Supreme Court or something. It's a crazy story. But the reason I bring it up is it sort of felt like it was a throwback to Hans and Franz, because that's where, we all sort of came, to that mind of how comical it was, and how the idea that Schwarzenegger became this icon, and he was sort of a goofball.
Still is. So the Hans and Franz characters came together. Dane and I were doing a tour in 1987. It was after our first season on SNL. And we were in a Red Lion Inn in Des Moines, Iowa, and I was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was a show called Up Close and Personal, and they would ask him what he did when he was on the road and when he checked into a hotel, and what was his day like or weekend at that town. And he said, "Well, I like to slip into the nice light cotton shirt, the white cotton shirt. I go on the town, and then I come back to the hotel, and I slip into the nice light cotton sheets, And I called Dane, and I said, "You gotta watch this. This is hilarious." And so the rest of the tour, we're talking like him, and we decided that when we come back that season, we come up with a couple characters. So we were just kind of spitballing, and we thought it'd be funny if there were just two not in touch bodybuilders, not even bodybuilders, they never lifted a weight in their life, they're very defensive, they berate people, and they're distant cousins of Arnold Schwarzenegger, because we have an Austrian accent and we have gaps between our teeth. But we wore the old gray sweatsuits, and Arnold eventually, heard about it and liked the characters because we were taking off a little bit on those characters, and he said he wanted to be on the show with us in a sketch with Dane and I. And we thought, doesn't he know we're making fun of him? I'm so confused. Maybe this guy's not very bright. So then we decided he's coming on the show to kill us. You know what I mean? So that day came and they got us on a set. They said, "Arnold is in his dressing room. He wants to talk to you guys." We were like two kids going to the principal's office. We were blaming each other. You came up with it. No, I didn't. You did. I said no gap between the teeth, no short haircut, no Austrian accent, but now it's too late. And we get to his dressing room, and his name was on the door, and his name was so long, it went onto the wall a little bit. So we knock on the door, and he said, "Come on in." And we go in there, and I'll never forget this. It was full of cigar smoke. We could barely see him sitting across the room. And in one hand, he had the script he wrote for him, and in the other hand, he had this big old cigar. And he looks through the smoke, and he says to us, "Hello, fellas. Now, how am I supposed to do the accent?" So right there, we knew he had a sense of humor.
that sketch when you pitched it to him?
He did. He did like it, but like any sketch, when you first come out, people don't know what's going on. You know, we put these two together, and we never laughed so hard writing these things because they were just, like I said, they're so defensive. You know, this is, you know, if you don't want to do that, if you want to work out, then that's your, you know, that's your thing. But and if you want to be a baby man, you know, why don't you just, you know, climb into a bag and carry yourself out of the trash, because that's where trash belongs, my friend. Hear me now, believe me later. If you took your belt off, you cause a flavalanche. That's right, nice and nice. All right, okay. And that's the talk with the palm. Yeah. So Arnold liked these characters. Oh, so I was gonna say, so we put him out there the first time, and it got kind of a tepid reaction. You know, it was all right. And then we wait a week, and then I said to Dana, I said, we should do that again. You know, we should do it again. And because we like writing it. So we did it again, and it was like instant recognition. People loved it. But you know, the first time, they've never seen it before, so they're not sure what to think, you know. But when they bring it out again, it's familiarity, and they just latched onto it. And even Arnold used a lot of those sayings to when he was running for governor.
It's not the baby man, but yes.
The girly man you can't really say anymore, I think. I'm not sure. My wife told me you can't say that anymore. But she tells me I can't say a lot of things. Like, can I go out tonight?
So what is the 50th mean for you? I mean, being a part of Saturday Night Live. I mean, obviously you go and you sit in, you know, in the taping, you have a big party and all that kind of stuff. Does that sort of feel like it's a pretty small club? I mean, even though there's been a lot of cast members, that's pretty cool. That's comedy royalty. I mean, no show's been on for 50 years. I mean, that's insane.
No, that's right. I remember when I first came. Now this, we went to the 40th reunion, I don't know, 5 years ago, whatever, 8 years ago, and I couldn't believe it. I was starstruck. I mean, everybody that hosted that show, musicians, everybody was there at the Plaza Hotel in the Ballroom. Everybody took, it was like being in the Hollywood Wax Museum. You know, everyone, David Bowie was there, Taylor Swift, Prince was there, and I mean, I could go on and on and on. And it was pretty crazy. It was really, and I saw the Manning brothers, Peyton Manning, who, and that's in the book. I have a sketch of them. I won't tell you too many of these stories because then you won't go out and buy the book. So Peyton Manning is standing outside the ballroom with his brother Eli, quarterback for the Giants. And I go over and I don't know him, but I recognize him. And I go over and we start chatting. You know, we're talking for like 10 minutes, short conversation, just a couple of athletes chatting. That's all we were, you know. And after 10 minutes, I said, "Hey, Peyton, can I get a picture with you?" And he goes, "Sure." So I hand my phone to Norm Macdonald, God bless him, and he takes our picture. When he's done, he hands it back to me. Peyton Manning snatches it from Norm, intercepted it from Norm, so to speak. Yeah, and he gives it to Eli, his brother. He says, "Eli, take a look at this. Let's see if it's a good picture." And Eli looks at it, he goes, "Yeah, that's a good one." Gives it back to me. They take off into the ballroom. 10 minutes later, I go to text somebody. My entire phone is in Chinese font. Can you say that?
You can say that.
I don't know how that happened. I'm asking everybody, I can't, how do I get this back? I don't know if it's right side up or upside down. There's nothing, I didn't know what button to push. And I thought, how did this happen? Like, the Peyton Manning brothers. So I run into the ballroom, and he's tall, I'm tall, he saw me, he goes, "Nealon, how's your phone?" And I was so angry, you know how I get. I thought, oh man, I made a beeline over to him, Herb, and I said, "You fix my phone, I don't care who you are, man. That's not nice." And I hate football, I hate the Broncos, I hate the Colts, I hate helmets, I hate all that stuff. He said, "You gotta take it to my brother Eli, he's the one that did it." So, I ran a square all pattern with a little loop over Eli. And I said, "You gotta fix this." And he did fix it for me. But on the bright side, I got 10 new followers from Beijing.
That's pretty good. So let's talk about one more TV thing, and then I want to make sure we open it up for questions. Your hiking with Kevin show, you sort of alluded to it. that's a lot of fun, you know? Like you get to hang out with somebody and you get them at their worst because they're all hot and sweaty and tired, and right? So you know you can ask
That's
them
me.
difficult questions.
I'm the one that's hot and sweaty and tired.
Oh.
I find myself huffing and puffing more than anybody on that hike, no matter who they are. I started doing this about 6 years ago. I had a friend, Matthew Modine, who's my friend, actor, Full Metal Jacket, Stranger Things. Nice guy, he hosted SNL. So I knew him, and I said, Matt, you want to go for a hike? He goes, sure. So there's a lot of canyons in Los Angeles, and we picked one near my house, so we're hiking, we're catching up, and it's pretty steep. And we're out there for like a half hour, and we could, you know, we're unable to talk without taking time for a breath of air. You know, it's like, Matt, when you first came out to Hollywood, did you ever have and I thought that would be funny if we were interviewing a talk show, and that was like the whole conversation. So that was fun. And then on the backside of the canyon, I asked him some serious questions. I said, Matt, did you ever turn down a film? You know, because Full Metal Jacket was a big hit. He goes, yeah, I was really particular after that film. I said, what did you turn down? He goes, oh, I turned down the Michael J. Fox role in Back to the Future. I turned down the Tom Hanks role in Big. I turned down the Charlie Sheen role in Wall Street. I said, you idiot. And he laughed, and I laughed, and I posted it on Twitter back then. And they were just 2-minute things. And then I started doing more and more, and I would call up every friend that I had that was a celebrity until I ran out of them. And I had to either make new celebrity friends, or I just call their publicists. So I called their publicists. That was easier. And so I've done like 116 of those so far. And some people are better hikers than other people. Like Molly Shannon was really fit. I couldn't keep up with her. I haven't seen her since, by the way. And I hiked with this comedian. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name is, oh my God, Eddie Izzard. He's from Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Funny dude. And he is a marathon runner. And I brought 2 waters, and it was like Tucson hot the day we went. And we're going up to the Hollywood sign, and he talks and he talks and he talks. And he runs marathons back to back. Like he talks about running a marathon one day, doing it the next day, another one the next day, and the next day. And he didn't have one sip of water the whole time. I finished his water bottle. I brought one for him. I finished that. On the way down, I was borrowing water from people, you know, and he's still jabbering away. And that was a long, that was like I got 2 hikes out of that. Yeah.
Well, I was telling Kevin backstage, we have so many great hiking places here in Tucson, we need to get him back and do some episodes here, right?
Yeah.
In the winter.
Well, and you know, and it's funny, you mentioned Gary Shandling before, but also Mary Louise Parker, she filmed a film here in Tucson with Whoopi Goldberg and Matthew McConaughey called Boys on the Side in 1994. So you're sort of...
That was a great movie. What was it called?
I almost fell right into that. so you know, you're connected to Tucson tangentially, but you know, I think we'd like to have...
No, I do love Tucson.
So.
I unfortunately go to Phoenix more than Tucson because let me finish. But I don't like Phoenix. You know why? Because it's not Tucson. No, I love Tucson. Got him right where I want him.
I'll take it. Have you done stand-up here in Tucson before? Have you?
I've done some corporate gigs here.
Okay.
That's where the big money is. I don't think they have a comedy club here, do they?
They do Laughs.
Laughs, that's a good name.
Yeah. As long as you have a brick wall, right?
You got the brick wall.
So I want to make sure we open it up for...
Well, I'm sorry. One other thing I wanted to talk about is you asked me backstage, how did I... oh, you asked me that already. Oh, the book. How did I come up with writing the book?
Yeah. Let's talk about this. So the genesis of the book, just to preface this,
yeah.
I just asked him, like, how did this happen? Did you think I want to do this book? Did you have an agent? You know, what was the process of getting the book out?
Well, I do like a hike, and I don't always hike to have a show. And I'll call a friend, and I'll say, you want to hike? So I don't know if you remember Body by Jake. He was a workout guy and a trainer, and his name is Jake Steinfeld. He's like the trainer to the stars. And he's from New York, so he kind of talks like this, you know, hey, Kevin, what are you doing right now, huh? You want to go for a hike? What do you want to do, you know? And so I go on a hike with him, and I know he's got a lot of books out. I said, Jake, you ever write any books? I got 10 books out right now. I got 10 books. I said, you write them yourself? Like a ghostwriter. I got a ghostwriter working for me. What about you, Kev? You got a book? I said, well, I got one in my head. He goes, I'm gonna call my agent, Jen Miller. Yeah, over at Abrams. I'm gonna call him. So he gets on the phone right there on the hike, and he hands me the phone, and you know, you know, she's a good friend of mine. He said, so she's open to whatever I have. You know, I said, well, I have an idea. She goes, call me when you get back, and we'll talk about it. And I call her when I get back, and she goes, let's do it. Let's do it. So I immediately started painting some pictures because I had nothing. I had to learn how to paint. I had to make up some stories, you know. But he's one of these guys he's such a motivator. That's why I like to hang out with him, and because he'll just get you going, you know. You know, he didn't bring that up, there wouldn't be a book right there. I'd still be hiking with him. You know?
And it took how long, sort of, from that conversation till getting?
It was pretty quick. To get published or to get a deal?
Well, a deal's pretty quick, right? I mean, that was just, you had to work out the details of the deal, but then, you know, like, I mean, obviously you had to finish the work and then get it delivered to the printer and all that.
Yeah. Well, the process with writing a book is you get the idea, and then you find a publisher, and hopefully you get into a bidding war. Was that the publisher? Yeah. Because the agent was the one he hooked me up with. So that was kind of interesting. And then you work with the editor, you work with that company, you come up with a name for the book. And they had some names that I didn't really like, you know.
Like?
I didn't like them that much, I don't even remember what they were, you know. And I had this idea in my mind, which I thought was a perfect title for a book on caricatures. I exaggerate my brushes with fame. Nothing more to be said. So, so it probably took a year. And I was so tired of painting and writing these stories, I stopped painting for like a year. And I think my wife was happy about that too, because I was always in my office, you know, in my studio painting. And I had to wear a neck brace for a while because I was down on it so much. You know, my back was going out. I have such a hard life. I don't want to complain, Herb. I told you I wouldn't complain if I came out here.
All right, well, let's let some people ask questions. I'm gonna hand my mic.
Oh my God, I thought she was coming up to attack us. Oh, this could be good.
I'm just curious how you would re-script the weekend news on Saturday Night Live.
Is that a question for me or for Herb? How would I re-script it or write it?
How would you write it?
Oh, good question, by the way. When I first got on SNL, I was a stand-up. I was just a stand-up. I didn't do sketches. You know, it's just a stand-up, a really, really good stand-up. So I had to learn how to write sketches. And then when I got to Weekend Update, it was back to writing jokes again. The problem was, you couldn't start thinking of jokes to write until Saturday morning. The show was Saturday night. A lot of people ask, hey, what night do they tape Saturday Night Live? Well, so because all the other talk show hosts were coming up with jokes for whatever was going on, right? And so anything you touched, they already did the joke or whatever. So Saturday morning, I would get a lot of the newspapers together and AP photos, Associated Press, because again, no Google or internet, and try to come up with jokes. And then they had some writers on the staff too, but nobody really wanted to write Weekend Update jokes because it wasn't that glorified. Nobody's going to be at the water cooler. By the way, I don't think there are water coolers anymore. I mean, nobody hangs out by the water cooler. Anyway. They wouldn't be talking about some joke on Weekend Update. They wouldn't be talking about a character or something. So nobody really wanted to do that. So the creator of the show, Lorne Michaels, thought that he would have a catered breakfast up on the 17th floor in the writer's wing to kind of entice the writers to come and write weekend update jokes. So we'd have newspapers spread all over, the New York Times, the Post, Wall Street Journal, all these photos of people with different kinds of faces, like, caught in the middle of something, and so the only people that came would be Al Franken, because he was a political junkie. And some of the newer writers would come, but they weren't that good, because they were newer writers, And Norm Macdonald would come. But Norm would only come to have breakfast and to read a paper. So that's basically, and I also paid writers $50 a joke that weren't on the cast. They were like people I knew in LA, and they would fax them to me. Again, no internet, faxes. Cell phones they had, yeah. And they had cars. We had cars back then.
How do you prepare for a stand-up comedy routine?
No. Well, it depends on which one you're talking about. If it's for a certain group, like a corporate thing, let's say it's Pepsi or something, then you try to create a few custom jokes for that. But as far as preparing for a regular stand-up act, you make sure you got the material. Sometimes I have dreams at night where I come out and I'm doing the Tonight Show, and I totally blank. I have nothing. So I'm pretty well prepared these days. But yeah, you write some good jokes. You prepare that way, get yourself a nice outfit. And then you find you kind of target your audience, I guess. And this, I think, would be my audience right here. Not according to what's been going on lately, but so I was telling her, like, sometimes, I'll be standing behind the curtain at a comedy club, and I'll look out, and everybody looks old. I'm thinking, oh my God, I just don't have the youth anymore. And then I start thinking, wait a minute, I'm older than these people. I don't rehearse, no. When I was just starting out, I would rehearse a lot. I would go back and forth, and I was about 6 years into it, and I got the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was the only late-night talk show at the time, so if you were a stand-up and you got that, it was like validating you as a stand-up comic. And so I got chosen to be on that, and I was so excited, but also scared to death, because it's Johnny Carson. And I went over that 5 minutes in my head over and over and over. And it was 3 days away. So I could be listening to you, you would be talking to me, I'd be going, yeah, I'd be going over my act in my head. I wouldn't be listening to you. And I had gone to that show a lot. I watched stand-ups on there in person because they give you free tickets. So I kind of knew the layout of the land. And so I drive in there and I'm so nervous, but I know I have to do it because my name's in the TV guide. So I have to follow through. I don't like to disappoint people, Except for today. So I'm behind the curtain, waiting to go on, and my mouth is so dry, I'm cotton mouth. And they introduced me, and I go out to the mark, and I totally forgot my act. I couldn't remember my act. I couldn't remember. I get out to a little mark they make, and the last clap ended, and it came to me. And like I said, I was so scared. If you want to watch something where I look nervous, you go take a look at that. I would smile, and because my mouth was so dry, that lip would stick to it. And I didn't want to lick it, because then I thought, oh no, they'll think I'm nervous. So I tried to adjust by bringing the lower lip up. But anyway, it was probably the highlight of my career. I know, even compared to SNL or Weeds or any of those things, that was the most exciting time for me, because I wanted to be a stand-up. That's all I wanted to be. And that night, I became a stand-up.
Hey, Kevin, this works a whole lot better than the water bottle microphone. But I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite moment on the golf course?
Because he knows I golf a little bit, but I'm not a good golfer. There's probably two favorite ones. One of them, I was doing the movie Happy Gilmore with Adam Sandler. And it's a movie about kind of golf. And,
Trying to golf.
and we were golfing on an off day at some course up in Canada. And Sandler was maybe 200 feet in front of me on the side of the course, looking for his ball. And I hit my ball, and it was going right toward him. And I said, Sandler, four, Sandler! And he saw the ball coming at him, and he tried to outrun it. And I smacked him right in the back. And I think that red welt is still there. The other time, I would golf in this tournament in Lake Tahoe called the American Century Championship. I did that for like 14 years. And they always compared me with Charles Barkley, because we both suck. We're horrible golfers. I'm a little better than he is. That's because he's hungover in the morning. But, so he's always kind of playing tricks, on me and stuff. And so one time he went in to use the porta potty, I don't know, like the 7th hole or something, and everybody's, waiting for him to come out. So I ran over to the porta potty. I just started rocking it. He couldn't get out. And then I stopped and I ran away. And he came out and everybody's laughing at him. So it wasn't really a golf thing, but you asked me what my favorite prank was, right? Is that your favorite prank?
First of all, thank you for being here. It's very enjoyable. I was wondering, I've always thought that, your era of SNL was probably my favorite. I think it was
everybody's favorite.
I'm wondering if you have a favorite memory of you and Chris Farley.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of those. Well, I never broke character on that show. A lot of the comics or actors in the last couple of decades, they laugh a lot. They break character, and it's fun for everybody, but the writers, because it doesn't service the writers, because they work really hard to come up with these jokes in the sketch, but then, and also it looks like some of them are just faking the laugh, just to get a laugh, because either the sketch is tanking or whatever. So there was a sketch I was in called the Chippendale Dancer sketch with Chris Farley. A lot of people love that one. I think it's probably the best sketch ever on that show, from what I've seen. I haven't watched it lately in a while. But so if you haven't seen it, Chris Farley is auditioning to be a Chippendale dancer against Patrick Swayze. And the Chippendale dancer outfit is really no outfit. It's a bow tie, cuffs, no shirt, black leather pants. And so Farley, and I'm a judge sitting behind a table like this. It was me, Mike Myers, and Jan Hooks. And we each had a clipboard like it was American Idol or something, And Chris Farley begins his audition. And the music is playing, and he's giving it everything he's got. His fat belly sloshing around. And every time I looked up, it was like the pool on the Titanic. Back and forth. And then I had to look down at my clipboard because I thought I was going to laugh again. And then I look up again, and stretch marks, more. And had that sketch not ended, I think I would have not been a professional. There was another incident. I didn't see him do this, but I heard about it. He shared an office space with Adam Sandler and David Spade and Tim Meadows. And their wing, that was like the frat house over there. They were, pizza boxes on the floor, and all kinds of girly magazines on the floor. 1900s. Yeah, it's Sears magazines. Catalogs. And so Farley, I don't even know if I should tell this story. It's kind of crass. Okay, all right. So Farley comes in there, and he's always trying to make people laugh. And these guys are always egging him on, no matter what it is. He said he was going to drop his pants and stick his butt out the window on the 17th floor and take a big dump down onto 50th Street. Should I continue? So they're all, do it. And so he does it. He drops his pants, and he sticks his butt out as far as it'll go. And it wasn't far enough, so he went on the windowsill. It's on the windowsill. And it's still there to this day. It's still there. It's one of the big stops on the NBC tour. By the way, Herb, sometimes I bring that book to gigs I'm doing, and last week I forgot to bring it, and I really wanted to talk about it, so I called Barnes & Noble to see if they had a copy of it, and the woman said, what is the name of the book? I said, it's called I Exaggerate. She said, who's it by? I said, Kevin Nealon. And she says, hang on, let me go take a look. I go, who is it? Kevin Nealon. And then she goes to look for it, and she comes back. She goes, yes, I do have a copy. I said, great, can you hold it at the cash register? She goes, sure. Under what name? Kevin Nealon. And then I got the book, and she said, is that for you? I said, yeah. And I held it up next to me. I said, it's for me, Kevin Nealon. I guess she never understood. She didn't get it. But it's weird when you have to buy your own book. You know what I mean? It's like Elon Musk going to buy his own Tesla.
Maybe time for one more in the back?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, maybe it was because of that time or era in SNL, like you were just saying, that was the best era of SNL, that Dennis Miller in some ways is kind of still regarded as the iconic news desk anchor, and everything that flowed from, I mean, being on Monday Night Football, everything for him flowed from his time there. And so, I don't know first if you agree with that, and then why do you think that might be? Do you think he was kind of that standard bearer and something at least that those of us who can remember, you know, recognize him as perhaps the most prominent?
This should be a two-part question. Well, thank you for that question. Who was he talking about? Dennis Miller? Yeah, no, Dennis Miller was, he was doing that for like 8 or 9 years. I don't know how long he was doing that, but he was on there for a long time. And you know, when you take over for Weekend Update, it's like being the president. You know, a lot of people like you, or people won't like you, they like the old guy. You know, so he got a lot of traction from doing that. And yeah, he got his HBO special show and I think a talk show he had. And then, yeah, NFL football, he moderated that, I think, once or twice. And, you know, I kind of forgot the question, though. What was the actual question? Yeah, he got a lot of traction from that, I think, was the...
And it is just like, the media landscape was so different back then, where like, you know, he was like the equivalent of Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, or whatever, you know, there was just a few things you could do and watch, and that will kind of raise them to that iconic status. Whereas, you know, today there's so many different places to go for your comedy, you know, YouTube, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah. There's just no iconic people anymore, I think is what I'm saying. And I'm sure, I don't think I ever heard a question. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, he's iconic, and he had a good following, and I think he's retired now. Yeah. But, and I want to add to that question. There's been a lot of Weekend Update people, and everybody's got their own different style. You know, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler had a certain style. Chevy Chase is the one I kind of emulated, because I thought he was the best. And then all of a sudden, they started getting Weekend Update personalities that weren't really Weekend Update personalities. They were more of themselves. It was Colin Joust as, you know, him, comedian, commenting on the joke, calling them jokes. And that's just their style, and it's really good. But for me, it was just straight-faced doing Weekend Update jokes. But they weren't jokes, they were real stories. Take a break, we'll be right back.
I just want to thank Kevin for being here today, and to remind everybody, thank you, Kevin. If you want to get a copy of I Exaggerate, My Brushes with Fame, Kevin will be next door in the signing area. And thank you again for being a part of Tucson Festival Books 2024. Thank you.